Hi, my name is Jimmy Williams with NFL Draft Diamonds. And here's me today. I have a diamond in the rough I'd like you guys to meet. This here is David Meyer. He is a linebacker out of UC Davis. Nice to have you today, sir.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Feel like people need to get to know you. Had a really good year this past year for UC Davis. Ended up with an 11-3 record, tons of tackles, tons of accolades. And so obviously we're looking at one of the best guys out of the Big Sky this past year. Go ahead and introduce yourself, David, and let's get going.
Yeah, so my name's David. I'm from Mission Viejo, California. Went to Cal Poly slow for my first 4 years, played linebacker, and then for my last year as a grad transfer, transferred over here to UC Davis and had a great season. So yeah.
Interesting. Cool. So we'll talk through some of those things and about all of that transfer. But before we get there, I want to take us back as far as we can go. How long actually have you played this game of football?
Wow. I want to say I first started tackle football about I would say third grade.
All right.
So yeah, it's been a while for sure. I don't know how many years that is, but
Well, you
yeah.
would have been about 8 or 9 years old. So
Yeah.
I don't want to sit here and do the math. We'll think about that later. But
Yeah.
obviously, you started early enough to get a whole lot of great experience. Were you always a linebacker? Can you talk through the history of you as a player?
No. So when I first started, I actually was a running back and then I was a safety. And then once I got to high school, it's when I switched to linebacker.
Gotcha. So, interesting, having experience in the secondary. I think most linebackers these days, like when evaluators come around and they really want a linebacker, they do want a guy with some experience, in coverage. So to say that that goes as far back as it possibly can, that's certainly interesting. As you had mentioned, attended Mission Viejo out in California, and very prestigious school with a whole lot of great talent out there. And along with some football, did a little bit of track and field as well. So, talk about you as a high school athlete out there at Mission Viejo.
Yeah, so high school, it was good. Started out obviously just freshman ball, moved on to JV, and then my last 2 years was on varsity. And then as a freshman, was kind of thrown into track to, fill the time in the off season and kind of, fell in love with it. Kind of got thrown into hurdles, and then that was kind of my thing moving forward. So yeah.
Interesting. You don't often see too many linebackers on the track. You see some people maybe as maybe defensive backs or some skill players doing that. So interesting that you have some background in that. Do you feel like that background might assist you as a football player or no?
Yes, for sure. Because a lot of guys, when they see me run, they're like, "Man, he's kind of fast." It's like kind of deceptive in a sense. So, some of that track really actually, paid off. So, yeah,
Cool. So I'm going to write down deceptive speed.
yeah,
Um, Definitely fun. So, uh, bro, out of high school, put in a very awkward position because we're dealing with the pandemic. I don't know how you guys did it because you're coming into a mess with a whole lot of question marks, wondering what in the world is going to happen. But
yeah.
you do eventually play. You start playing out at Cal Poly. Talk about those early days of you at Cal Poly and just kind of your early development as a college athlete.
Yeah. So, like you said, came in 2020, still COVID. So, I'm a freshman coming into Cal Poly, and it's like we don't know whether or not we're gonna have a season. So we're still training, having a little bit of camp, but then it gets shut down, and then we come back. We have a 3 game spring season I'm a true freshman, and then later on that spring, same year in 21, we have another like we have a full season just regular. Um, so that was definitely the early stages of me developing. Then eventually the next year is when kind of saw the field, got on, started 8 games that year. And then for my senior year, kind of went up and down, not really the best. And then, yeah.
Well, I mean, you end up, eventually establishing yourself well at Cal Poly. I mean, you were at one point or another like leading the team in tackles, doing very well. Was a team captain there as well. But of course, position yourself well that perhaps some other teams would be interested in you. But David, I'll be honest with you, to me, it feels a little weird, going to a rival in UC Davis, man. How did that feel, man? Did they welcome you with open arms? I mean, how that transfer happen?
Yeah, so it was very welcoming actually,
Good.
ironically. So every time now that we talk about it with my coaches here, they're like, yeah, once we saw that like you were in the portal and like we saw your tape and it was like, man, they're letting go of this guy. Like, yeah, we'll take him. So I came here with open arms and the guys here were just it was a smooth transition and yeah, just loved my time here.
Cool. And then obviously only really had one season with UC Davis, but really made the most of it. Just want to kind of list some of the things that you were able to do this past year. Was named first team All Big Sky, having a total of a whopping 122 tackles, also four interceptions on the season as well. And a Buck Buchanan Award finalist this season. So a lot of great accolades, man. What do you I don't know. What are you most proud of there?
Um, Aside from all the accolades you just said, the thing I was most proud of was just winning games. So, as we stated before, 11-3, this was the best season that I've ever had. So that was basically kind of my main goal. All the other accolades don't really they're nice to have, don't get me wrong, but the wins were definitely my top priority and yeah.
Yeah, obviously this past year, 11-3, actually more wins than you saw combined during your time there at
Yeah.
Cal Poly. So certainly nice. That isn't to say Cal Poly, doesn't have some studs coming out of that program. I know I interviewed an old teammate of yours a while back ago. So obviously some good talent there, some great talent really in the Big Sky. Obviously, every once in a while, people will come along and they'll say, "Hey, this guy is just a small school athlete," and maybe sometimes that stings a bit. How does that, I don't know, kind of stupid, silly evaluation hit you, man? Like, is that taken with a grain of salt or what? Like when you're labeled as a small school guy?
I mean, a little bit. I definitely took it into account, when I was in the portal. Obviously, you guys want to, take that step. I was an FCS player. Definitely, believed and thought that I was a FBS caliber type of player. So when the opportunities came around, I was blessed to, still eventually land up here and then, still have the season I had. So that was kind of a chip on my shoulder and kind of just showing people, what I can do. And, I think the numbers and the accolades kind of speak for itself. So yeah.
Yeah, and of course you had mentioned the wins. You're out there, you're leading your team to a lot of great victories. Let's talk about you as a linebacker. Obviously, very experienced player. Talk about how you've been used, and maybe even have you how you describe yourself as an athlete.
Yeah, so being used as a linebacker, obviously I'll be playing in the box, playing in space. I think that's kind of what's a little bit unique about myself. I'm able to, be out there. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Gotcha. Can you repeat again? Because we got disconnected.
Oh yeah. So what I would say is me as a linebacker, very versatile, could end up, line up in the box, outside the box, and kind of just move sideline to sideline. If they need me to, be a coverage linebacker, I could definitely do that as well. I love playing in space and, you know, and the run, but I could just basically, yeah, do it all kind of.
Well, I mean, uh, for what it's worth, I mean, I know it's not really scouting, but when we look at your stats, they do kind of prove to some extent your ability to be effective in really all phases of the game. Of course, when you're coming down with four interceptions, that's certainly kind of nice to be able to walk away and
Yeah.
say, hey, I can be effective in coverage.
Yeah.
And again, as we had mentioned, I mean, you have some experience as a safety, so hey, let's give the guy his just due. So obviously, a guy with some good athleticism, good lateral quickness to get to these spots and make these great plays. Let's talk through a little bit of this past season, if you don't mind. There's a lot of great moments that I feel we can cover here. The first one that I want to cover really is right out the gate. UC Davis is playing Cal Berkeley, dude. Big FBS school. Obviously, you a very tough opponent. It didn't end the way you guys wanted to, but I mean, I felt like you guys put together, a solid outing, made things fairly competitive. Can you talk about that experience of playing that, big time FBS opponent?
Yeah, so obviously we knew we were going to play Cal the first week. And like we already previously talked about, I kind of had a chip on my shoulder and kind of wanted to prove, what I could do and what better way to do it than versus, an FBS opponent and our first game. So, just getting out there, kind of just trying to prove to people and myself that, I can do this and compete with people of those caliber as well. And then, just as a team aspect, obviously there was things that we needed to clean up, but I thought that for the most part we played pretty sound football, and then that kind of carried on to the rest of the season as what we could be. And yeah, those showed up in those 11 wins. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, you get an opportunity to go up against an FBS talent, which in a weird sort of way kind of preps you guys to make a great run uh, this past season, in the Big Sky, and going up against some good talent. I want to talk through at least a couple more games. The one that came up was you were named Big Sky Defensive Player of the Week against East Texas A&M, formerly Texas A&M Commerce, where you had 15 tackles and a pick six where you were going like half the field. Talk about that game and maybe that one particular play.
Yeah, so that game was definitely it was closer than we anticipated for sure. So I mean, just flying around, just trying to do my assignment. I didn't even know I racked up that many tackles. Like I was just out there playing. And then as for the pick six, um, I mean, I don't really get many opportunities to do that. Obviously, the situation of the game was it probably would have been smart for me to go down, but I've never had a pick six, so I told my coach I saw green and then just went to the end zone. So yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a very interesting set of circumstances. I mean, it's fourth quarter. The game is winding down. You guys are winning. They have the ball. They're driving, and then of course, you get the ball in your hand. And you're like, I'm going to take this thing the distance, and in doing so, really, what you did is you just kind of you killed all the hopes and dreams of all the people that were your opponents, putting the nail in the coffin there and sealing that win. So. It's interesting being the bad guy sometimes. Like, is that something that you can embrace as a defensive player?
Yeah, for sure. I would say that my personality, like off the field, is definitely different, and then when I'm on the field, it definitely turns on. So it's a different type of mentality. So yeah.
Gotcha. And bro, as the regular season was winding down, UC Davis stood toe to toe with some of the best guys out there. Obviously solidifying yourselves, proving that you're one of the top teams, not only in the Big Sky but really in the country. You close out wins against Montana, and ended the regular season against Sacramento State. Talk about maybe one or both of those games, and closing out on those games, finishing with a victory and really positioning yourselves well in the playoffs.
Yeah, so heading up to Montana, that was a big game that a lot of us were looking forward to. Obviously, packed out stadium, the biggest crowd that we've been in all year. It was just a good environment. We knew the assignments that we, had to take down that week. We just executed, and we kind of made a statement about our defense that game, and kind of showed people that we can, hang with the best of them. And yeah, it was just a really good experience. And then as far as Sacramento State. tensions. I mean, they obviously didn't have the best season this past year, but it's a rivalry game, so everyone's gonna bring their best out. It was a close game thus far, the entire game, but played as much sound football as we could and came out with the victory. So yeah.
Yeah, and in that game, you hauled in another interception as well. Um, I, I gotta focus on some things, of course. Can you talk about that moment and obviously that turnover?
Yeah, so I was playing as kind of like a hole spy guy, and then one of my teammates, he tips the ball up. I see it. I'm like, oh, this is definitely in reach. Kind of dive out, get it, roll to my back to, show the referees that hey, I caught this, and then it was just from there, yeah.
Well, obviously can't make all these plays without some of these teammates, of course. Talk about some of the guys around you, some of the guys there at UC Davis, and maybe perhaps some players there at Cal Poly, who have been some of your more impressive teammates throughout your journey.
Yeah, so starting off with, Cal Poly, definitely Elijah Ponder. He was also my roommate, so we go pretty far back, still in contact to this day. But just kind of playing behind him, just like instilled a lot more confidence in me. It's like I got this guy in front of me. He's gonna do his assignment, and I'm just gonna follow through and make him right. And then as far as players coming here at UC Davis, I would just say from top down to bottom, the defense was just very sound, and I kind of just inserted myself in it. And I kudos goes all to the D line for sure. Those guys this past year were just incredible. Getting the run stop, making it easier for myself and my other partner, a linebacker, Porter Connors, just go around and make plays. So yeah.
So, you think UC Davis is gonna, kind of do a repeat or not better next season? I mean, how are things gonna look with guys like you stepping away?
They're gonna be just fine. They got a good head coach, good supporting staff around them, guys that are hungry that haven't got the opportunity to showcase what they've had, but they're gonna be good next year.
Awesome. So, David obviously put together a solid season last year, positioning yourself as an NFL draft pick now. We're looking at you as an NFL draft pick. Despite what your profile says from your school, you are not a redshirt junior. You are a senior out of eligibility, looking forward to opportunities at the professional level. What are you doing these days as you're preparing for your pro day and such?
Yeah, so I'm just keeping up in shape, obviously. Still got a training program here. Just doing it with my strength coach currently at UC Davis. And then on the side as well, I'm also still finishing up my master's. So that's kind of why still doing my training here and then just doing school, but keeping myself busy and just leading up to the pro day coming up. So excited about
All
that.
right. So you said you're getting your master's. Obviously, I had your undergrad. What's your education background?
Yeah, so I got my IS degree at Cal Poly for my undergrad, and then here kind of had a good opportunity. It's a 1 year master's program at UC Davis, the first year that they're actually offering it. So it's called Masters of Management. They basically cut their MBA down in half, and then that's what I'm in right now. So looking to finish up.
So, as we kind of transition away from all of the football stuff, I mean, I'm just going to transition into some stuff so that we can learn more about you. I want to kind of dive into this, education background, if you don't mind. Where might you see yourself going once your football days are done, man? I don't know where this particular, major in all of this is going to lead you down the field, down the line.
Yeah, so a big interest of mine is getting into sales after, I'm just done with football. But another big thing that I was set off to do after all this was done was I was actually just interested in firefighting. So I was
Okay,
gonna, start that process and then eventually a couple years into that, then get into medical sales. So yeah.
interesting. Well, who knows when you may or may not actually get into those things. I mean, obviously, right now, training, trying to get things right for your pro day. I want to throw some other questions your way, David, but I also want to give you just kind of the floor. I mean, is there anything else about you that you want to share, like whether it be some of your interests, hobbies, fun facts, anything else that you want to share about yourself that we don't already know?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously I've had a little bit of time now on my hands now, so one of the kind of fun things I like to do with, some of my teammates and friends, we go out to go golfing and bowling. So those are two things I've kind of been picking up recently that I've always kind of wanted to do, but just haven't had the most time. So yeah.
All right. So which one are you better at, a golfer or a bowl?
I would say I'm probably better at bowling for now.
All right.
Still got to get out there and work on my swings, but it's definitely it's a good vibe every time we go out. So
All right. Have some other fun, hopefully fun questions to ask you. So, again, these have absolutely nothing to do with football. These are just for fun. So just play along. All right. Um, do you play an instrument? Or maybe if you don't, is there maybe an instrument that you would love a chance to play?
yeah, so I don't actually currently play an instrument, but 2 years ago, I would say one of my roommates he actually had like a keyboard. So every now and then, like it would just be in the living room. So I would go out there, kind of get on my phone, YouTube, kind of just like search up songs that I wanted to kind of learn. But that's definitely also something that I want to do in my free time when I have the chance. So
I mean, I didn't know where that might go, if it was piano or something else, but I
yeah,
mean, kind of nice that you have at least at one point or another, at least attempted to do something of that
yeah.
along
I mean,
those
there was
lines.
definitely instruments that we played in elementary school. Like I played the trumpet, like the violin, but nothing really kind of those don't didn't really stick out to me. So
Gotcha. So if you try to pick one of those instruments up right now,
oh no, no chance. I don't. It'd sound pretty bad.
all right, well, that's fine. A couple more questions again, just for fun. Do you have any pets at home?
No, I do not.
Okay. I didn't. Sometimes people have them. I don't know what the deal is. Do you happen to collect anything?
Uh, Not really a big like kind of collector, to be honest. Just, have things and then once I'm kind of done with it, kind of either donate it or just kind of get rid of it. So, yeah.
All right, all right. I'm gonna find something here, so I'm gonna keep feeding you some more of these. So, um, bucket list vacation spot. Obviously, for dudes out in California, like I never know if they really want to go anywhere else. But what would that be for you?
Yeah, I definitely want to go to Greece for sure. And seeing a lot of, videos, pictures and whatnot of things, places to visit over there. So it's definitely something on the bucket list. Um, Other than that, maybe also the Philippines as well. So my mom, she's Filipino, and we have a pretty big family on her side. So it's always been a thing to like get all the cousins and whatnot together to go to the Philippines. So that's also definitely on the bucket list.
How is the overall family cuisine? Like, what's your most favorite home cooked meal?
Ooh, that's kind of tough. I do like a lot of things. Probably just a good old steak. Steak's always good. Steak,
Eh,
some rice, some grilled onions, some
Fair enough.
vegetables.
That works out. I didn't know where you want to take that with the Filipino background, but
Yeah, so I mean, I would say I'm kind of whitewashed basically. My mom doesn't really cook as much Filipino food, but we're definitely I'll have it every now and then, but it's like obviously not my favorite, but some of the stuff I do enjoy.
okay, okay. Let's try and slightly shift gears back towards the football thing. Obviously, a guy who's been playing linebacker for quite some time, maybe even perhaps watches guys at the next level. Uh, who are you a big fan of, man? I mean, is there like a particular team or player that you've been following?
Yeah, so when he came into the league, I was a big fan of Roquan Smith because I'm a Bears fan. So my dad's from Chicago, so that's kind of why I'm a Bears fan. So when we kind of got rid of him, I was like, oh man, like this guy's a great linebacker. Like we need him. But yeah, I've been following him for since he got in the league, and he's one of my favorite linebackers to watch for sure.
All right, cool. Well, obviously, as you hopefully try and get to either the Bears or some other team in try and pursue that goal. Obviously, doing a lot right now, dude. You're training. You put together a very great outing this past year for people to look back on. A lot of these great games that we talked about too. So if people want to go back and look at some of your film, some of the best games to look at, you as a player. As we close up shop, any final thoughts that you want to tell people about yourself as a prospect, and maybe what an NFL team would, if would get if they took a chance on you. So close with your thoughts.
Yeah, so any team that would be interested in me, they're definitely going to get a guy who's going to give his full effort, being asked to do whatever, as if it's special teams, playing linebacker, getting out there playing box safety, like it doesn't matter. Like I'm just trying to get out on the field and just prove to people, that I can do this and I have the abilities and just yeah, you're going to get a guy that's going to give his full effort, guy that doesn't quit, and guy who just kind of wants to prove to people that, yeah, I can do this. So yeah,
Well, definitely rose to the occasion last year. Solidifying yourself as one of the best defenders in the FCS. And I don't know, man. I mean, I think some teams just going to have to give you a shot and hope to prove that you can really be an impact player on whether it's special teams or get out there on defense and again show again that you can make plays all over, whether it be against the run or in coverage. So, David, want to wish you all the best. Okay,
yeah, thank you.
sure. Once again, I got David Meyer, linebacker at UC Davis. Check him out.